Hi, welcome to the Letting Love Lead podcast. I'm Jeff Newton. This is my lovely panel of guests who you'll meet in a moment. And Letting Love Lead, this podcast is dedicated to helping you, if you're a coach, a facilitator, healer, body worker, or any other kind of leader who wants to take steps forward in your journey with your message, with your inspiration, with your offerings to make a larger impact in the world. We'd love to share our journeys, any insight we have, and any wisdom we have with you. I'm Jeff Newton, and I'm going to go around and introduce everybody on our panel here today. So first up, we have Lionel. Welcome, Lionel.
Hey, it's great to be here. We had a good warm up here, so I'm really in the mood to talk about something. Doesn't matter what. I'm just excited to be here.
Oh, good. And next up, we have Lara. Welcome to the call.
Hi.
Did you have? I think you just had an event on Wednesday, an online event, right, Lara?
Yes, I did. Yeah. It was a good experience, especially because I love doing things live in person, and so it was a really it's like this embracing something new, doing these online types of events.
Okay, cool. Look forward to more of those. And next we have Birta. Welcome to the call.
Thank you. Hi, I'm excited to be here and see what happens today when we just let love lead. Yeah.
Yeah. And I think you mentioned earlier that you've had a little adventure before getting onto the call today.
Yeah. I crashed my car just a couple of hours ago, and that was a bit scary. So my system is a bit like shaken up, and I'm also kind of in denial of that didn't happen. So, but it did happen, and this fantastic group just in the beginning now just helped me land a bit more. And yeah, so I will just be really kind to myself today.
That sounds great. Yeah, thank you for joining us. Yeah. And last but definitely not least, we have Marcy. Hi, Marcy. Welcome to the call.
Hi, Jeff. Thanks. Good to be here. It's funny, Birta, as you were speaking to your car crash, I was thinking there are some parts of me that feel like I've had a car crash and but I have no explanation for it. So, but when you said that, I'm like, yeah, that's kind of what my system feels like right now. So we'll see if that gets explored further in our conversation today.
Thank you, Marcy. So, as some of the others have mentioned already, we have, here's a little behind the scenes look. Before every one of these calls, every one of these podcasts or episodes, we connect as a group and we check in with each other, and we bring all parts of us into the call. So what that means is we really slow down and take a moment to get real with each other about what's going on, not necessarily in the story of our lives, but at least in the moment, and how that relates to the call that we're about to get onto. And we do that for, I'm sure, a variety of reasons, but one of the reasons that's important to me, this call is called Letting Love Lead, which implies that there's something else you can let lead. What would that be? That could be letting mind lead, letting agenda lead, letting habit lead, letting fear lead, letting survival lead, letting other people what they want for you lead, letting approval lead. Like, there's just countless ways you can be led in your life that will slowly sap the shit out of your energy and make life not a lot of fun. It also doesn't work so well if you have like a unique gift, a purpose, because the more unique your gifts are, or the bigger a purpose you have in sort of a service-oriented creative department, the less habit and approval kind of energies will work for you. You're not going to go and find your most creative, unique, this is me, I can help the world solutions if you're thinking, how do I please the crowd? How do I please the crowd? What do I do to get it right next? So there really is an art to letting love lead. And in our check-ins, we try to do just that, is pave the way for all parts of us to be here with less of our own personal agendas. And that way, the love, the guidance, the present moment itself that emanates throughout all of us here on the call and through you who are listening or watching us right now in this moment. I'm sure you can feel it. That is the guiding force in your life. It's the guiding force of everything. And how do we let that lead? So as we were tuning in today in the check-in, it became very apparent that we need to slow down as a group for this call to allow this message to continue to come through. And so far, some of the ingredients we do have for the conversation today. One ingredient is that there can be a tendency to speed up when you think you have a lot to do in your life or a lot that's important to do. Another ingredient Lara mentioned was the greater, let's say, the higher expectations you have for yourself, or the more potential you have, or I have, the more possibility, then it can, on the other hand, that sense of possibility, when I fail or I haven't got there yet or things don't work out as I planned, it feels like a bigger tragedy because here I am, I've got so much potential and I'm wasting it, or these gifts or this opportunity, and it didn't come to pass, didn't come to be. So our nervous system has habits of trying to speed up to make sure that we don't end up in the place that feels like failure. Or it can speed up to protect us from feeling traumatized parts of us, injured parts of us, shocks we've had in our lives. Because there is a larger, I believe, cultural myth that says the more I indulge in any of my trauma, the less I'm going to get done. And then the more I'm going to fail. And I don't want to feel that. So let's just keep it going, keep it positive, keep it fast, keep it productive. And we're not here to do that today because that might work for some people. And if that's working for you, wow, congratulations. It doesn't work for me. So that's all I know is I'm not one of those people. So for me, it really does. I'm more satisfied by letting it slow down to the point where what's real can come through and guide and take care of us individually and as a whole. And personally, that's what I believe for the planet. I know I'm on a little monologue here, but I really do believe like that space we talked about earlier, where in this moment, all the guidance we need comes. I think that is what guides us individually and collectively. So that if we were all like cells in a single body, you call the body planet Earth, or maybe there's a larger body of the solar system or the galaxy or the universe, we're like cells in that body. And as we become receptive to the moment and not those other patterns I mentioned of conditioning or fear or whatever, in that receptivity to the field, we can begin to activate, I know in the Vedas, they call it dharma, your right livelihood, your right purpose, your way of being that is just the truth, operating moment to moment. Might not be perfect in quote marks. It's very human, can be messy, but it's real and you can trust it and it's part of the journey. So that's what we were talking about before the call, except I turned it into my own words. So it's what we're talking about now. And I don't feel like putting too much direction on it to start. I want to just trust that this is enough of a canvas for us to pick up some paintbrushes and continue to color on. So when it comes to anybody who is trying or who wants to, let's say, who wants to make a bigger difference in the world, they feel like they are a cell in the body that's called to help others so that the world can be a better place in whatever way you feel like you want to make it a better place. If we here, I'm asking, if we on the call think of that person, people that have that calling inside of them, and yet they're human and have this process inside of them as well, what is it you'd like to, shed some light on, talk about, bring attention to for all of us on this kind of a journey together? Human journey, trying to give, but then also we need to give to ourselves at the same time.
I'd like to share my thoughts as you're sharing this, Jeff. I mean, I definitely relate, have always related to being that person who wants to make the world a better place. And so that part responded. And I was also very aware of, before coming to the call, that I had thoughts about not coming to the call because I could feel all those messy parts, or this fear of not being able to present how I'd like to present, right? The parts that I favor. I didn't, so there's that. And so I guess when you said it's so tied into, we want to be of service and we want to, and contribute to the world, but the but is that we have, it has to look a certain way and we have to show up a certain way. And we can only have success in that if we conform to the idea in our mind of what that looks like. Like I can't come to this call today in pain, experiencing physical pain, emotional pain, or feeling off, right? No, it's like, because this old idea is I have to be on, right? I have to be on, I have to be my best, I have to, and only that is what will get me from A to B, right? So it's just that there's so much about unpacking that notion, right? It's so limiting that I can only basically, but what we're saying is I can only succeed or contribute if I'm perfect, right? Or I show up in the socially acceptable package, right?
Yeah.
And I just and that leaves so much of the real us behind, right?
Yeah.
We don't even tap into what's real.
I think that's also such a good example of what Jeff just shared, that then we don't trust that we're a cell in an organism, right? That's part of this larger whole just by being who we are in that moment. And that is such a strong pattern for much, I see that often, and so you're describing it so beautifully, right, Marcy, is like that example of thinking, well, I better not do this because in this condition that I am, because then I'm not part of the whole, or that I don't function, so that's such a big thing that I'm sure that many of you watching will also relate to. If I show up in this way, it's going to be bad, or if I do this, it's not going to be conducive. And in fact, maybe the question is is it true that when we are exactly who we are meant to be in that moment, with all our pain, all our stuff, that we actually contribute more to the whole than if we don't? You could. So I don't know if I have the answer exactly, because I don't know. I mean, that's the assumption and that's the truth that we're sharing here. But I sometimes find it hard to believe that as well. But I think it is true. But it's a good question to ask, right? Because it comes up here for me.
So the question is, if you had to rephrase it, is it something like, if I show up with me in any moment, including the messy parts, could that still be me contributing to the whole?
Yeah, exactly.
I know for me, it has been many times. Maybe it is, like you said, Lionel, maybe there's some nuance to the question, because everything is nuanced. That's the fun part about life. That's why it's hard to master, I think. It's because the second you think you have something figured out, go into habit energy and bring the wrong toolbox to the next dimension of your life. But I do think there are definitely times where, like we're experiencing now on the call, where I've thought, oh geez, I'm not going to be very good at this coaching session. I'm not going to be very good at writing this email. I'm not going to be as resourced as I should be. But what my mind is really doing is it's going, I predict the next moment isn't going to look like that past moment I had where I felt different. And I want that past moment again. I trust that. I don't trust this unknown business of what's coming if I only have. So that's really what my mind's doing. It just wants the old thing again. And I noticed that if I bring what's real, in other words, not the past, but the present, into the present, I know, crazy idea, that does seem to somehow bring through in the present moment all that's really needed. It might be less impressive. It might be more awkward. It might not get as much approval. So all those things we talked about, maybe it's going to miss some of those rewards, and maybe not. But I do notice that a layer of wisdom comes through and relaxation comes through, and that it's better for my energy. And it seems to be more energy rewarding for people on the receiving end as well, if I just bring all of me, rather than trying to bring and manage a appropriate for the occasion me. And now that I've said that, I realize, yeah, and there's also so much nuance in that, because I could just say, well, I'm going to be me on this call, so now it's time for me to take a shit, and you're going to watch. Like, it just, there's a limit to, like, what does it mean? You're still always in a role. There's always the role playing out, but there is a degree of management, I think, that like you said, Lionel, instead of me being me, I'm going to be someone else and trying to be get it right and be successful the way Marcy said, like, oh, this is what success looks like. That keeps me out of my purpose. It makes me crazy because I'm trying so hard at my purpose.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just keep thinking of this whole thing about it has to look good. It has to not be messy, right? This idea. And I'm just, I was also reading this weekend, just like that, that we talk about the difference between curing and healing, right? And so today I'm showing up and, the mind wants to say, like, wow, I still have this, and I'm in pain and I want to make myself wrong. Like, it starts going, what did I do? Where did I go wrong? Right? I must have done something wrong because I'm in pain today, right? That same old, it's something I'm right. It still comes down to this trust issue of, it's all on me, right? Like, and it's, so if pain's present, I'm failing. That's the old story, right? But it was just helpful to remember that, like, there is a difference between curing and healing. And I just mentioned that because, I think that's part of my path. I'm on my own healing journey, but it's like with the hope and the desire to help others on their healing journey. And the thing is, it is messy, right? Like, there's curing, which, I can remove the symptoms, right? I can cure by maybe removing the symptoms of it. But then often, when the curing path, we miss the true healing path, right? Because then I'm just like, if I can remove the symptoms of pain, but have I gone any deeper? Like, because if I think about it, healing is messy because it's about bringing, it implies integration. It implies all parts of us. It implies wholeness, right? It's about, if you take it on every level, it's about bringing ourselves into right relation with ourselves, right relation with others, right relation with this complicated mind and all the parts that haven't been acknowledged, right? So I realized it was a good reminder, because it isn't copacetic, it isn't always clean, but it's like that I'm not looking for a cure. I'm looking for real healing, which I want all parts of myself on board, and it's a messy process. And anyway, maybe that was a little digression, but it's just, there's something about trust here too, because it was ironic, like after last week, we touched on this theme of how pushing doesn't work. It's the old paradigm. We push, right? I have to get done. I have my agenda, like feelings, you know, you have to sit in the corner right now while I pursue productivity.
Yes.
And I just happened a couple days ago to watch a Kyle Cease video that was actually vibration versus action.
Whoa.
Vibration versus action. And it was like this idea of the same thing. It's like we don't trust, because if you think I have to do, it's me. Like it implies there's a lack of trust. But if when he says, when he was talking about himself, when he lets vibration lead, which is kind of like, I think you're letting love lead.
Yeah,
like
if
we let the vibration, we don't trust that, right? But what if that once we align with the vibration, a higher vibration, that it wants to carry us there,
yes.
but we don't allow it because we're not trusting it. And I'm so busy in like, I have to do. So I realized, I think I've been feeling off. I think I heard, maybe I listened to it on Saturday. And Saturday was a perfect example of having this agenda in my mind. I was going to write some blogs. I was going to be productive, but I could feel heaviness. I could feel off. And so I'm like, oh, okay, I'm going to listen to that. I'm not going to push. I'm going to wait till I'm, aligned with a better vibration. But what I'm realizing is I did step A, but I didn't really do step B. So I didn't do that because I was like kind of honoring, okay, I'm not in the space. I acknowledge, I give myself permission to not be in productive space. But at the same time, what I think I missed step B, which was I still managed to neglect. Like I didn't, we talked about it last time, right? Like the parts of us, and, Lara, you talked the importance of meeting those parts of us and being with those parts, right? But I realized it's tricky because I think I didn't do that part. Like I still went about my day, but I was still somehow like trying to just like push it aside, like push whatever was wanting to come up aside, right? Like, so I just realized it just takes so much practice and this honoring of slowing down, right? Like, because I think unconsciously, maybe I didn't think it consciously, but unconsciously this was, oh, if I really unpack this, oh shit, I might lose the whole weekend, right? Like, I don't know, the background noise, right? So anyways, I apologize. I feel like I just went on a tangent.
The same thing without the apology. You definitely didn't take too long. I've at least spoken twice as long as you so far, so you did it well.
Yeah, go ahead, Larry.
I was just going to speak to this distinction of vibration. When I actually let that land in me, what does that mean, vibration? And like literally, it's something that I have to open to feel. Even if I'm going to listen to a vibration, something has to happen for me to open to receive that. And it comes down to sensing, to relaxing enough to let something move me.
Yes.
In order for me to feel a vibration, I need to like actually sense it, like let it feel the echo of it in my body. And then pay attention to like, oh, I could feel it in this part of my body, but this part is just like not listening. And the challenge is that I think it's inclusive of the vibrations of the screeches too. There's like certain vibrations that are like, I don't want to open up to. That's too much for my system to receive. And it takes me into a whole different relationship to time, because vibration is more three-dimensional, more spatial. It gets me more into a spatial orientation than a linear.
Yeah. Interesting. As we're talking about this, I just noticed this, how much of the stillness and the slowing down is here, right? So it's interesting because we're on the third call now. We're having this discussion, and there's the slowing down stillness, and as well the how does this work? But that's what I sit with as well, is this opening up to something bigger wanting to come through. Not wanting to feel the screeches and scratches that you're saying, and then as well just staying present with it, and the disturbances and the drama and the chaos and the instability that also begins to move as I open up to. And we talked about that last week, the desire versus disappointment.
Yes.
You know, so it kind of clicks in, and then on this call we're also kind of talking about, and you mentioned that, Marcy, like the old story that comes up, you know, about push, about having to make things happen and putting all the emotions aside. That's also part of trauma. That's so collective, you know, everybody kind of is in that space. So then, of course, when we're trying to settle in deeper and try to drop in and receive information and begin to open to sensation that you're also describing, Lara, that we're also going to encounter that split in us from our truth, you know, and the way that we've been compensating for it, and the stuff that we don't want to feel, to integrate all of that vibration in order to be whole, and then from that place, you know, move forward. But that's a process in and of itself. That's part of the journey that we're all on, and that can be really challenging. The whole process is really. I just wanted to kind of put the bigger perspective on how this is affecting, or how I go through this in that way, and just see all the links between all the parts that we're speaking here on the call. You know, if you were all parts of me, which is what Jeff was explaining at the beginning of the calls, when we do the check-ins, we really bring in all the parts of us into the call, because, and that goes back to that theme of not excluding anything and trusting that we're all part of that greater whole, of that cell within the organism, right? It just all kind of comes together. So there's a lot here, and yeah, I guess that's just a summary of, and my piece here. So, yeah.
I just got curious, Lionel, because some of us shared some of the things that we are like excluding. Is there, what would be your version of that right now that you're, yeah.
Yeah, it's a good one. It brings up a vulnerability, but it's something that actually happened today that I didn't share on, before our call or on this call yet. But I think for me, yeah, there's definitely an element of what feels like to me is the part of the masculine that's leading, like you were mentioning it, Lara's, when you allow vibration, it becomes more spatial rather than focused in a direction. And I feel like I often go in a more of a passive role of a state of being, which I'm more comfortable with, versus actually taking what I'm receiving as information and then actually trusting that it's telling me to do, to like an arrow, like point it, like put it in a forward moving motion in a way, even by a small step. And it shows up in patterns as well. Like, for example, this morning, there's two birds here, a male and a female bird, and that I have here. And there was a big dynamic between them. And my old pattern would be when the male bird kind of attacks the female bird quite aggressively because he's in a bad mood or whatever, and he's insecure, and there's the whole dynamic that I can see unfolding. I go, okay. And my old pattern would be to react to that, but then, and then that's what my ex-partner would tell me is to not, to withdraw, to leave it, to not do anything, because let them just sort it out. But I really noticed that actually what I needed to do in that moment was take charge and keep them and do something like from a place not of reacting to it, but from a place of taking leadership over, because I'm the caretaker. I'm the authority over them in that moment.
Yes.
And otherwise I won't be taking leadership, and only then the drama and the instability and the chaos and the attention seeking and the fighting and all the stuff stopped. So that's one of those moments where I really saw, okay, this is like that male bird is representing to me again and again. It happens more often. This part of me that I'm not engaging in that moment, because I think that it's almost like, well, I know what not to do, but I've missed an automatic blueprint of what it is like to do, to what I should do or could do. So that's a part of the masculine, I would say, but that's a part that I find vulnerable sometimes to bring in. And yet, paradoxically, I guess I'm bringing it in now. But it's just it's what I miss sometimes in life, or what I see. I don't know. That was pretty long, but that's a piece that I wanted to share.
You're good. I'm really glad you said it, and I won't be long. Just wanted to say, like the question I would ask for coaches, facilitators, people like us, it's like, well, then who are our birds? Like, who are the people we're here to take care of? Because the two paths you kind of demonstrated, spoke about, Lionel. One is the path of reaction. So as a coach, that could be, people need me, right? Shit, I'm not doing my purpose. I'm better if I do so some kind of approval or conditioning that I'm good if I do this and bad if I don't. Like that's a road sometimes people go down. Or reacting through survival, like, well, given I need money, I'm going to serve people, and then whatever it is, whatever version of reaction, or like Marcy said, oh, here's how it looks to show up. Here's how it looks to try and help. So whatever conditioning, whatever habit, whatever reaction. And then if you start paying a price for that, I've noticed, hey, I'm good at faking it. I just don't do it anymore, but I can fake it. I can park parts of me and, hey, everybody buy this shit and whatever. Like, I can do that, but I hate it because it never feels good. The shit I create is always like, even if someone's happy with it, I'm not. And the price, like emotionally and physically, I just become this resentful version of myself that like hates everything, because even when I succeed, I fail. Like, I don't want that. So I got used to like, oh, that's not it. And then I started, like you said, Lionel, then I was more indulgent in the other realm of what I would now call a type of, could be a spiritual bypass, or could just be like acting a bit more indifferent to my own leadership impulses. And then that's not it either. It looks like it. You could say really spiritual things. Well, I'm living my purpose in every moment, no matter what I do. So I'm just not going to do anything I want to do or help anybody. But it's my purpose still. Don't come at me with anything else. It's like you could do that and beingness, and it's right in the words and it's right in a way, but it's not actually love. Like if this was an organism, and if the instructions from the organism were, your job is to do this, and you would love it, but you decide that signal's not for me because it's more spiritual to not listen to that signal. I'm a spiritual cell that just sits here and I'm just being, it's like, that's head stuff, and it feels like it's spiritual stuff, but it's not, it's a bypass. So what you described, Lionel, is like a present moment active leadership. And you said it comes from the heart, from love itself. So that's what I mean by letting love lead. Can, moment by moment, I, as Lara set up for us, be with the vibrations and learn what they're saying. There's even learning what they're saying.
Yeah.
So it's not a quick and easy process. That's why you need to slow down and give yourself patience, be really compassionate, but learn what these impulses are saying, have a little trial and error, take a step, maybe when you think, maybe I should be more still, and be still maybe when you're scared because you think, oh, if I don't take a step now, maybe it's all going to go wrong. Like, play with it, but don't get trapped in the extremes, because there is a heart-centered leadership innate to you that's trying to come forward. That's at least what I believe and I see in myself, and I believe is out there in others too.
Yeah, that and I think I know for myself, sometimes to like translate the vibration is actually to even feel like its impact on me. Like, like letting the vibration, whatever, because I don't know, it's like as if my body is trying to translate something that is a foreign language, and my body is the universal translator of that vibration. And it has an impact on me, just like as if I was looking at a landscape, or if I was watching, and there's something that comes from that impact that starts to give me information about that's translating. And then I can have choice of how I can respond to that. And I won't know until I just play around with like, well, given that vibration and that impact, should I try this? This as an expression? How does this feel as an expression of that vibration? Or, right? It's, we have to try out, and we have to mess up. But it's just another brushstroke of like, are we really messing up? Or are we just like, oh, I'm just gonna, just like your storyline of like, oh, I'm gonna try it this way.
Yeah, the art of being creative and just like exploring the joyful expressions of what it does, and the comfort zones and all of that. It kind of comes into it, right? And yeah, it's kind of how I feel it when you're describing it that way. Yeah.
And I think the word to play with it is really essential, because things can get so serious.
Yeah.
Oh my God. So what I normally do if I feel trapped, or I'm like just in my mind, I'm like trying to do something, it's like I might just make a video, because that's how I connect or deliver my message, is through videos. But I don't have any inspiration that day to do anything, and then I'm like, okay, I will just start the camera, and then I'm like, blah, 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 and I'm like just kidding around, and I'm singing and like just really playing, and then I get so inspired, and this sounds maybe stupid, but and then I'm watching it and I'm laughing, and then I push play again, and then I have this playfulness in me, this joy, and I can speak of whatever, but it still has this kind of also the lightness.
Yeah.
Because it can get so fucking serious.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
And that's just with energy. It's yeah, I've experienced that a lot.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah, and sometimes you don't want to do that, and you don't want to, or just play some music, some stupid music, but it's something just, and just move your body in different ways, and be stupid, make sounds like wow. And then all of a sudden, even though you didn't want to move, you didn't want to do anything, I don't want this, it's just something is happening, and the flow, the life force starts to impact you, and then you get more out of your head, and sometimes you are not inspired to do anything after that, and that's okay too. Well, it sometimes it's okay and sometimes not, but yeah,
I'm sitting here in admiration, because I feel like wow, like how to do that, access it on my own, because I realize I have a silly part, but it comes up in relation. Like I realize if I'm with someone, right, when I'm hanging out with a friend, right, then it gets activated, and it's to self-activate that is not, that's definitely something I need.
Well, maybe you should try it. Just make a video. Just try it.
That is not a way to get me into levity. No, that's a way to provoke my perfectionist, my shame, that is not going to be my vehicle to levity.
Something else.
It is such an important. Yeah, go ahead. I was going to add, it is such an important ingredient that you're adding, Birte and Marcy, because it brings the levity and the lightness to what we need to go through anyway. But then it can become like it can become so difficult to, and the stories and the weight on our body and our systems can make it really hard to make any progress when we don't open up to that vibration or whatever the sensation that we want to open up to through our bodies, right? That probably you were going to say something about Lara, but yeah.
Well, I was just going to say, like, it's interesting. It makes me think about what is said about our relationship to pleasure, right? That, for so long, most of us wait to have pleasure be brought to us, right? That outside to stimulate our own. And so then, like, to be able to take ownership of, like, our pleasure, our joy, and that, it's like the opening is surrendering to it, as opposed to it being something that is like, oh, I have, it's like, we'll feel like as if it's like a work or obligation. Does that make sense? Yeah, obligation. Yeah. That that all the habit of being serious is actually habits that come from something else. It's not our true nature. So the playfulness, the joy, the pleasure are aspects of more of our true nature. At least this is what helps me to kind of, like, when you said that, Birte, like, to remind me, I'm like, oh yeah, if I'm serious, then, like, there's something happening here that I'm resisting something that is underneath all of this, that is light, that is.
I think usually what it is, we're resisting our true nature.
Yeah.
I realize, like, that is such an essential part of me. And I realize when I access it, I'm like, damn, that's real. Yeah. And yet that's more my exception these days, I feel like, than the rule. And it reminds me of, years ago I did, I went on a 21-day retreat. It was it was called Mystic Rose, and it was one of Osho's last, therapies. And so it was like 7 days. I remember when I read it, like, God knows what called me, because it was pretty much first week, 7 days laughing, 7 days crying, 7 days silence. And something in me went, I'm there. But even like, what is this? Right. So the first week was laughing. And I thought, right, when we went into this, so basically how it was like 3 hours. So we go into a 3-hour session. And I kind of thought, again, like you mentioned, because we expect it to be brought to us, right? I thought we'd learn techniques and things and how to access it and implement it, right? But so basically the idea was, like, the first day we had permission to interact, right? Because they realized, like, so the first day I realized it was kind of like, we're all like, okay, now what do we do? So it was more interactive, like, started a pillow fight, right? Like, it playing and like kids kind of thing. But the instructions were the next day, each day, to increasingly find that on your own. And it was just so interesting because it was very challenging, but each day, right? There were times where you're like, you're trying to laugh. What happened even before? Still another fucking hour of this, right? Like it's kind of like fake it till you make it a little bit, but the gift of it was my first time ever realizing that it is in us. Like, there were times where this joy, and I could access this laughter, and I would get the giggles, and I just couldn't stop, right? And it was just amazing. And so it's just nice to be reminded of that, and that was the whole point of this, right? Like, to undo all the layers of conditioning that's put on us to tamp down, right? Like, and in order, right? Because that's, when we're raised, right? The first things that get shut down, or don't be too rambunctious, don't be shh, settle down, right? Oh my God, how many times in life was I told, settle down now, settle down, don't make too much noise. So, and then so you're undoing all that false self that's put on you, right? And then the next week too is like, especially, you know, the crying, like, especially for men, right? Yep, you're a man, you can't have emotion, you can't be sad, you can't cry, right? So it was just this peeling away. And it was just awareness, like, that we're just all, if we're like mummies, we just don't know it. And we just have to take off the wrapping. Just. It's a lifetime endeavor.
I just feel like you just unwrapped me, Marcy.
Yeah. Christmas gift here. And I know we're going to close soon, but I wanted to summarize something that I see here from this last part that we said. It's just really clear to me that if I were to speak for me in this, that we talked about this beingness part, right? That we're this beingness, and I think this. Just to say, this over-exaggerated need to just be comes from the traumatic dissociation from our true nature, or in my case, from my true nature, that, like you guys were saying, is like playful, fun, showing emotion and stuff. And I think that's a pervasive piece that happens in society with so many people, because we've just all experienced, like you were just doing with the unwrapping, Marcy, just so much false self stuff that it becomes hard to be our true nature. So then our attempt to get to that is to just be, because we're trying to be ourselves. But like you said, Jeff, we then stay in this zone that feels really spiritual, but it isn't really. But it's that attempt to compensate for that deeper wounding that we've actually experienced, because we're sensitive often and all the rest of it. And I just really see it clicking in, as we're talking about this, and that then again comes back to my overall message that I share every call, which is you need others, because you need to heal, and it's really hard to sit in that place within yourself and not know and think that you're being so spiritual and all the rest of it. But it's hard to get to that place, right? You need support. That's what I think. So yeah, just wanted to wrap that up.
Yeah, thank you. That's a lovely overview. I love this theme of connecting back into pleasure, connecting back into desire, connecting back into play and into our true nature, and not doing all the other serious business around our purpose, because that's when it gets sticky, that's when it's not rewarding, and that's when we can get really stuck. Come back into our bodies, unwind, come back into that pleasure again, and trust that, that can be following the vibration and letting that lead. So
yeah, like Lara's doing right now.
I just have this thought of like, I guess we could trust the people that end up seeing this are the people that are going to be resonating. But my brain was going, if someone sees this, they're going to go, what's this about? Like, I want to learn how to, build my business, put my message out there, be seen, and, this, and they're talking about all this irrelevant stuff.
Like throw the monkey wrench in, right?
But, I guess it's just such this, what hits me is that, how the only way to bring our gifts is by being who we are and being who we were designed to be in the world. And really that's all the obstacles that are there are just those obstacles to us being who we are, right? Like it's just, so to build a business or to get from A to B in our objectives, it hits me. It's such an old paradigm. It's old school and it's dying. This idea, this old way that we've been taught to do it, just push harder, work harder, right? As opposed to, no, what if it's our first and foremost success criteria is unwrapping the mummy, right? Just, and then, letting it flow from there.
And this true being that all is needed is being who we are, right? But it sounds so simple, and it is, but it's not always easy. And it's interesting because I just realized that's, when you get all the steps 1, 2, 3 to success, it always sounds simple, and it is, but it's not easy. And that's where it gets You know, that's the thing, right? It's tricky, but it's the journey, and that's what we're doing. So.
And two extremes, and I won't go into it now. Like you said, we're nearing the end of the call, but I want to still say that these are two things we will for sure go into on other calls. If I'm going to just be myself, that sounds easy, but just being me also means in the shadows, and the shadows would be unacknowledged parts of my personality or my makeup. And on the dark shadow, like the shadow side, that means just being myself means being who I actually don't want to be, but I am.
Yeah.
I'm trying not to be, but I am, like being that. And that's vulnerable. Why would you ever do that in front of someone else? So there's that side of it as well. And then there's the light shadow. That's like who I wish I was, but I am. What I admire that other people have that I don't have, but I do have it secretly. I just don't acknowledge that in myself. And stepping into your light shadow also makes the nervous system freak out. To be like, I'm really amazing and can really make a difference. Then you get in front of a camera and you're going to be like, I'm really amazing, can really make a difference. And you turn into some weird other version of yourself, and you're very serious all of a sudden. It's no longer fun or playful. What happened? But it's because I didn't want to step into those, outside of those lines of my habitual me that feels comfortable. So just being yourself sounds easy, but it's like, just don't be the habitual you. It's not that simple, but in a way, you start to encounter that territory of the unknown, because yes, you are the unknown, and the you and the me that I know so well, the known self, is just my mind's story about me, not me at all, not you at all.
So well said.
Yeah.
Perfect note to end on.
Yeah, cool. All right, well, let's move into our closure. So we'll hear from everybody and where you can find out more about us if we want to be found by you. We'll start with you, Lionel. Where can people find out more if they want to see you in the meantime?
Yeah, you can find me for one-on-one work sessions at my website, www.lionelfrancis.com. So.
Perfect, and that link's in the description. And how about you, Mara? Where can people find you?
You can find me down in the link that's in the what do we call it? Is it the comments or the?
Well, it depends on where people are watching or listening. So on YouTube, it's going to be in the description. That's below the video usually, and then but if you're listening on another platform, it'll be in the description there.
Yeah, and especially if you want to play around with what does vibration feel like in your body, like we're talking about vibration, and it's like. I really love to get into the specifics of the whole spectrum of vocabulary of what vibration feels like.
And bringing it into the body so people don't just go, oh, I get it, like they read a book, but actually you help them feel it in the body. They go,
experiential.
Oh, I get it. Yeah. Thanks, Lara. And how about you, Birte?
You will be seeing me here. The podcast the next time, and also you will find my email address
in the description.
In the description, that's the right word. and for me, it's I really like to work with. Well, actually, it's my own journey that has been. Self-love, but not like self-love scratching on here, but like really, 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 really deep down, and to also have fun on that journey. Yeah.
So if someone felt when you were speaking like they need more self-love, they'd love to go on that kind of a journey with you, they can reach out.
Yes.
Wonderful.
One-to-one.
Thanks, Birte. Okay. And you, Marcy, how can people find out more about you?
Yeah, so I work specifically with highly sensitive women.
Oh, can you just say it again, because the audio cut out a little bit, just to make sure everyone hears you.
Okay, yeah, so I work a lot with women who identify as being quite highly sensitive or empathic, and you can find the URL to my page where you can download. I have a free guide, PDF guide related to the hidden gifts of sensitivity. So I've put that in the description below.
Thanks, Marcy. And for me, you can find me on my YouTube channel. That link will be in the description as well. Unless you're watching this YouTube, then you're already there. And you can also find me at my Member Vault website, where you can see what services I offer one-to-one, as well as sign up for the newsletter, which is a great way to stay up to date on anytime I go live or we do these podcasts as a group, and anything else going on in my world. So once again, thank you for joining us. Take it easy, take it slow, be kind to yourself, and let that flower that you are keep blooming one moment at a time. Look forward to seeing you next time. Bye for now.
Bye.
Bye.